keep putting us off the track, baby.
In Japan, where the sun will always shine, traditions collide with the future's line. Through city streets and temples high, find your story beneath the sky. Waves scratch, pumping out your sense, harmony flows to the best of lands. In the neon glow, there is best, the culture rich, where reason stands. In the morn of grace, we'll dance the night with every star, a guiding light. In Japan, where the sun will always shine, traditions collide with the future's line. The cherry lanes and soaring heights, find the magic near the moonlit nights.
Oh, alrighty, guys. We will get ourselves started here shortly. I don't have the thing set up quite right. Um, home. Okay, let's see. Alright, so we have something new, coming down the pipeline for Euro Truck, for Euro Truck Simulator 2. One of my favorite games of all time to play. I am a big trucking fan. I love these trucking games, so much. But we are getting some Scandinavia to refresh, as you guys can kind of see here in some of these images. I'm not going to read everything, but they are doing some refreshing, right there for you all, to get it. Of course, one of the many things that I love about American Truck and Euro Truck is that they just do such an amazing job. They do such an amazing work for these companies, in getting everything that we need. Now, of course, I do have a lot of mods, but I haven't used a lot of mods for it. I'm using pretty much, mostly, I have 41 active mods because most of those active mods were, I was originally going to start doing this with, the intent for, bringing a lot of, anime into the company, where each truck would have a different anime theme, each truck type, and that's where it would go. But then I ended up shifting to utilizing Pride stuff now. Shifting my stance on changing, since, I want to be able to keep it unified as much as I can across trucks here in Euro Truck, and then in American Truck I did it across, where these trucks are all going to be focused on retro wave theme, and all of it. I'm gonna go. Let's do that. let's get into our cargo. Um, I'm trying to see if we can come down to here, because today would be such a nice but we don't have that. I wanted to see maybe we go, because that's going back the way we came. Vortex Lion is just really, we're going back that way. Balboa. Maybe we can do here. Let's take a small little trip. For I would like to start getting into some other places, but there's a couple of things that we're gonna get into today. For a lot of you, you've probably seen the news, probably seen the headlines. For some of these things in question, I'm bringing in some more light in here. I sure definitely. Cause I was thinking it was over there, but I'm gonna thinking maybe we take a couple of trips, cause I wanna do a I wanna get over to the Middle East. I was hoping we'd get to the Middle East today, but we'll do service recommended, and then we take and we clear out just to do that. I hate having to do that, but we need to do it because I have no idea why I have why do I get a lot of trailer damage for it. So we are gonna stick to doing pretty much a lot of things where we've got a lot of things coming in within today. You probably noticed that the headlines for the for it is really interesting to see how things go on. Where's my TikTok? Thank you. No, no, no. Okay. Fruit. Thank you. Alright. You know, for a lot of things, the biggest one that I want to talk about is the Middle East thing. You know, the Middle East. I didn't put the thing 'cause I could leave that into interpretation. To interpretation of what I'm talking about. Now, when I'm talking about the Middle East, I'm talking about um, Israel today and Qatar. They basically, you know, you look at the thing that goes on with it over there. You've probably seen the headlines. They've basically, I may be a little bit late to the party, but you know what? It's okay. I don't want to be not late to a party. Um, and I'd rather be late to the party than get the facts wrong. Um, Now, of course, I don't get it quite right away because, you know, a lot of times headlines like Midas, like listen to Midas, but a lot of times, like when I go and listen to see something, they don't, they only show it like dead, not quite straight answers. Um, but it's okay. Um, you know, sometimes that's the reality that goes on. And the Middle East, pretty much, with Qatar got bombed, got attacked, pretty much, and basically saying they're getting rid of Hamas, and it's like, um, um, and it's like you didn't listen, uh, to like basically like, oh, they're like Qatar, like we'll see if anything comes out of this, if Trump basically doesn't do anything about about Israel bombing Qatar, or if or what's the we're going to the cargo, right? The one that we're looking for is Vitus Power. Okay. I had to make sure that we're hitting the right location. So there is that. Um, there's that problem going there, that basically, you know, when you look at the Middle East and you look at that, that when you look at it, it's like Trump basically said, oh, they would have peace, we'd be ally, like we'd be an ally to Qatar, and we'll see, because we don't know if there's anything going on this major issue going on within Qatar. Now, thanks Jerry Edgemon for joining the TikTok live. But there's also some other things that I also wanted to really think about when you think about the Middle East, and that you know a lot of me um a thing that I really look upon within the Middle East is that a lot of the, if you go to the Middle East, you're not going to be able to be, you won't be able to have the ability to, um, be LGBTQ. I don't think there has been any light in recent changes on anything. Um, but there's also some other things that have really, um, come out and, um, for this one. There is a lot of news that there are some things that aren't going to be talked about that are listed there, on that thing, and I always got to make sure that I'm starting this thing off by prefacing that, the LGBTQ community within the United States is going to get a devastating blow if Congress passes this bill. And if Congress passes this bill, basically they cannot allocate funds for Medicare and Medicaid at all, for basically allowing gender affirming care to exist. Basically, if by that logic, basically in my logic, I would prevent gender affirming care. Basically, you want testosterone, you want facelifts or anything like that, or anything that requires gender affirming care, that would be considered gender affirming care for transitioning to the non-biological sex cannot also happen on biological sex either, because by that logic you can't. And basically not allowing for it, they basically, in this appropriations bill or whatever I think it is, they don't want to even support the care for sports. They want to ban sports for trans women, not trans men. It doesn't say anywhere in these it doesn't say anywhere in these bills, that it says you need to, also do it for trans men, because they say, oh, there's going to be an advantage. They always go in and claim that trans men have an advantage, when I go and look at this and I'm like, the person that I always come back to, and this is because it's always so much ingrained in my mind, and this is one of those things that I've always been going to continue to bring this up, because look, just because a trans person outbeats you in a sport, or ties with you out in a sport, does not mean that you are a bad person at that sport. Okay? It's not like the sport's not, it's not about, to me, a sporting, is not about, getting wins, about getting wins every day or wins every time. Sports is about having fun and getting exercise and doing those things, rather than putting a trans person out of the way. They basically, I looked in this reparations bill and looked up disability. Like they basically, I have not gone into dedicated looking into the disability section of this. I mainly just heard about the trans issue. They don't really seem to care. They want to take away the freedom to make that decision, the freedom to choose, and you could say that, oh, they're not. They're just not allowed. We're just not allowing taxpayers to pay for it. No, when you start taking away the Medicare and the Medicaid for funding for something in a capacity of getting rid of it at a hospital, or taking away that, it doesn't, it basically removes that choice at all costs. It's the same thing. You want to remove vaccine mandates, like in Florida, and remove those vaccine mandates in Florida. Well then you gotta put back in the abortion portion. If you don't want to put back in the abortion, then you need to then put back into those vaccine mandates, because my body, my choice. Well, in my stance, it's like, I will tell you right now that if it's my body, my choice, then I want to damn well allow to have an abortion. I wanna make sure that everybody has the opportunity to have it. Vaccine and that. And if you're gonna tell me, oh well, then if you're gonna tell me that, oh well, vaccines are, well then if you can tell me, oh, vaccines are on. Actually, I was gonna turn that way, and then I realized, nope, we're going upward. Then you look at a vaccine. The vaccine is not anywhere inherently bad or anything to harming your body, but they think that it is. They think that mandating a vaccine, that not by not mandating a vaccine, but not by allowing parents to make that decision, why can't then why are you getting, why are you instituting a Screen Act? Why are you instituting the Kids Online Safety Act if you think that a parent has every right to not get their child vaccinated? Because they look at the vaccines, and they look at it as it being a bad thing to children, a bad thing to these children that don't, and they look at it as vaccines being unsafe, being there, and it's like, but they look at the internet and it's unsafe. Guess what? If you're trying to make sure that kids always are safe, you're not making kids safe. But you say you are for protecting kids. You aren't protecting kids by not mandating them getting vaccinated. Because if I was ever president, I would say right effective immediately that any state that does not have a vaccine mandate, or forcing a vaccine mandate, will not receive federal funding. Will not receive federal funding. And you will not receive federal funding for it, because basically you are, and I would put in there, I would put in the Safety Act, and I'd make sure that it's mandated by federal law that vaccines have to be mandated by all children, have to get vaccinated in all of these vaccines have to be mandated by children that have been given to children before, and requiring them, and making sure that these vaccines protect children, and making sure that they protect humans, because you're not really protecting a human life. You're hurting a human life. You're destroying humans, because you are ignorant and selfish about vaccines for thee and only vaccines for me, and no vaccines for anybody else. They have to defend for themselves to get it. They have to go and buy it themselves. We as taxpayers don't need to go and do this, but then we are mandated to pay taxpayers. We're mandated to pay taxes to the government, but yet all of these taxes are going to billionaires. All of our taxes are going to corporations that aren't they're mandating that these things go to corporations, and not actually go back to helping people. They want to get rid of the they don't want to pay into the Social Security, but yet they want Social Security because they want the money, not because they paid into it and they're getting less, because these people who made less or anything, they're greedy, they want more money, and all of this. And of course, if I was somebody that owned a Twitter or owned any of these platforms, I would basically make sure that if I owned a actually I don't need to use that because it ends there anyway. Because I would basically say, thanks kicking with the 52 to 80s. Thank you for joining the TikTok live. I would basically say, okay, the vast majority of the things that I would have would be, there'd be 3 things that I would have that somebody would think I'm crazy and say, oh, you're only gonna have $1 million. It's like, yep. It's like I would have just enough to live off for basically, I would find a way to just live off for a year. Enough just to survive and have some little bit extra over. Like, yes, I would say I'd only have $1 million. Why? Because I'd only find a play, because like I would look at not spending more than that. If I spend more than more, it would be something that I would let's go into check. Distance wise though, that's a lot better distance wise. But I'm trying to see, that's going to Morocco. Anything, let's do this. I actually price per distance. That's going to Portugal, that's going to Madrid. That's going to Monaco. I'm just seeing if we got anything. Okay, that's going to end for that. But that's like, why would I want to take used plastics and take, well, that trip time, that there, just going to Barcelona. Do we got anything going to Barcelona? Because for that 27-hour trip, that boric acid is the one that's going to give me the most in terms of that. Now, of course, we are down here. We got the aircraft tires. Aircraft tires going down to Portugal. That's also a good thing. The luxury AVs, though, it's slightly shorter. I think we'll take you. We'll begin this delivery. I want to start getting, I want to go. Oh, that's the external contract, not the price, not for this. Okay, so the Balatoid aircraft tires that go down to that same exact thing would not be what we would want. The cargo market, the best one so far, the biggest price per distance. is this one here at 14 hours trip time. Now, 14-hour trip time, it is going to be, I have to get off at 5:30. Um, um, I didn't check into Leon. I should have really looked at the external market. Um, Let me check the external market. Could not find any jobs there. Nothing in Barcelona. The only one here is this Volatoid. And that's taking dryers. The only other one there that is a little bit longer. Taking the aircraft tires going there is 32. Compared to the cargo market. This is going a little bit longer, and we get more money for it. Like, I want to do distance. Yeah, no, I think we will. Yeah, we'll take this boric acid. And so it's thinking about what we do as somebody that I look up to, or some people that I really inspire to, are those who absolutely are willing to there are people out there that do make content, make videos off of, you look at those people where, where they go out there and they do it to basically make money off of you. That I mean, there are a lot of yeah, I'll do that. Where a lot of these people make money off of giving people $1. You'd rather take $1 or take a mystery gift. Um, there's always often these people out there that they basically will give it to people. There are good genuine people out there that do make videos off the content, of course. And sometimes, a lot of times, there are good people out there that do, and that's great. Okay, and we need to show more kindness in this world, and we need to be showing it more than showing the hate-filled content out there. But at the same time, we also need to call out the hate and call it out. There's this one thing where, sometimes karma can bite you, and karma does. And, the one thing that I wanted to share with you is that, I don't care if I made that mistake. I didn't. The AI can be very stupid. Look at that. Look at that mess. Messes like that can disrupt your day, but you know what? It doesn't disrupt me. Oh, stuff like that does, but whatever. It's one of those things where a lot of times when you look at the things that you see on the internet or you see throughout the that you see throughout all of the content that's being produced. Um, you know, when when I look at that, and sometimes there's good content out there, and you see all the, and I'm pretty sure, when you look at something where there's this lady basically got into basically stealing this baseball from a kid from the Phillies. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was the Phillies. I might be not. I might be wrong a little bit on that. You can always correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, or you guys can catch me if I'm wrong during the chat while I'm live. But when you steal something from somebody, and you think, oh, I'm gonna be happy. Oh, I stole something from somebody, and you're not. You're not gonna be happy because in the instance of this woman, that basically happened before, apparently the same woman did the same thing to a musician and destroyed $20 of goods. Lost her now since then. I think she lost her job. Not quite 100% for sure, but the kid that basically got more than the kid bargained for. It was his birthday. It was yeah, it was his birthday, and his dad took him to the game, and he ended up getting more than what was asked. Basically, just was gonna get the ball, and if this woman hadn't taken the ball away, this kid would have not gotten the extra goodies that he got, over the fact of that this woman's probably pissed off that this kid got more than what. Hold on. Yeah, it's gonna tell me 37 hours remain. But I'm going to come down here and fill up. So it's like you don't you don't think about your actions can have can have consequences. You steal something, you're gonna get into trouble. And sometimes when you end up stealing from somebody, you're gonna have that time where it's gonna come and bite you in the butt. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time it will. It's just the same thing as when you go out and you do something that gets you into trouble. Like sometimes like if sometimes you do get into trouble, but it's not really, you know, there's one thing about it is, Dwayne Johnson did something that sometimes, there are times where kids don't have the care in the world, and sometime now of course, Dwayne basically repaid all the things that he stole Snickers from the convenience store, and or stole candy kind of stuff, but he basically went and corrected the wrong. He went and paid back the stuff that he did, and then some. And those are the people out there that when people do good things and do right and do it and don't show that they have a lot of wealth, and show that they show that they are, yes, they are wealthy, but they don't show it. And when they don't show it, those are the people that really I kind of look up a little bit more to those than who are wealthy, who are showing that they are wealthy and showing that they are out there and wearing these fancy shoes, wearing these fancy clothes. I'm somebody that will not spend a lot on things. Yes, I'm a little. I do spend a little bit more than what the average, than what I should be buying. I buy, for me, I don't have anything to buy right now, but normally I do spend a little bit on having some things. I do spend a lot. I have a little bit more on video games because, not everybody has it. They have, yes, and Yotes comes in and doesn't. And it's like there are people out there that don't have the funds, don't have the money to buy map packs or DLCs and things like that. But what I will always tell you is that I always recommend that you find deals. You use SteamDB. Use that as your basis for waiting. Like a game like this, you're still gonna have fun, no matter what you have. You're not, one of the things I will always say is, you don't need to have the absolute next gen console. You don't need to have a PC. You don't need to have these things. If you are able to play, you're able to play games. If you want to be able to play the next greatest thing because you're a Call of Duty player, you don't really like right now. If you are in Call of Duty, you can wait a year and see if the prices go back down. Instead of getting a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series system, you can wait a year. You can wait a year to go and get that PlayStation because, you don't have to go out and buy it now. Save for it. Do things that, it's like this computer. It's like I bought them part by part over a course so that I could, save a little bit of money. Of course, I could have easily done a little bit more due diligence and upgraded my computer to a I could have easily upgraded my computer to upgraded the CPU by a standard. I could have upgraded the GPU a I could have upgraded the GPU to it. I could have waited longer, but sometimes you don't want to wait too long though. You know, don't wait too long, because then you might not be able to get that at some point. I'm gonna go here and rest. Thanks, Hong, for joining. In TikTok Live, thank you. One of the many things that I always will tell you guys is like, when I look at things across these things, it's like, yeah, you don't have to go out there and spend $1,000 on Rick Owens. Look, I will tell you, like, $1,000 on a pair of shoes is ridiculous. If a $100 pair of shoes, okay, I will tell you, I have a lot of my shoes are pretty much mostly around $100 or less, around $100 or less. I didn't say that they could be a little bit more than 100. Most expensive pair of shoes I have in my collection that I bought brand new, that I don't wear very often because of oh frick, is I have bought a pair of Adidas swastika crystals, Adidas Superstars bold for it. But the thing is if $120 pair of shoes can last you a longer, you don't need to go out and spend a new pair of shoes every year. If you're an adult, you don't need to spend them like that. You can wait. You can, you know, and the same thing is like if $100 pair of shoes can outlast for a year or longer, and that $1,000 pair of shoes can last you about that same amount of time, and you're spending $1,000 every year on a pair of shoes just because you want something like that, it's not worth it to spend that much money. And it's not worth it to spend on a shirt, a $30 shirt. I don't spend a lot on $30 on a shirt, because it's like $30 on a shirt is not something that you need to spend $30 on to spend it on. You don't need to spend it on a $30 shirt when that $15 shirt is just as much as that. Now, of course, there are some times where you might make an exception, where there might be an occasional where you might buy a shirt for or you might buy a shirt that's $30 because it's a band shirt and you really like that band, and that's fine. But you don't need to go out there and spend it all the time. Spend less. Find ways to spend less on things. I'm not saying that, you know, food food, like what you should be doing is spending less on those things and spending more on healthier food options instead of spending on on a little bit healthier food options. And sometimes you can't really spend on healthier food options all the time because there's no way that you can spend it on everything today because sometimes you have to really spend it on the cheaper stuff anyway. And that's why when I always say is like if you're looking at a video game, a game that you really want to play and you have $4.99 lying around, you can get the game for that price. But then you go out and you have to buy the DLC in order to get further and to get places. That's where some of these companies make their bread and butter. And that's great. That's a thing where these companies need to make some money, for their work. And that's why I say like Eurotruck is doing it right. Eurotruck and American Truck are doing a lot more right than Call of Duty, Fortnite, and these things where this content that I go out and I said, okay, I'm paying $70. I'm paying $70 for a Call of Duty game, where with $70, I'm gonna pay $70 and I get lackluster content, paying 70, and over the course of the time, they get more money because of skins and packs and all these things. Whereas Eurotruck does this in a way where the base game is $4.99 to get into the game, and then they expand upon it by dangling that carrot right in front of you to buy more DLC in these areas. But they actually do go in and actually do well with these. Eurotruck is a game company that supports a lot of what they do. In a lot of this, they make the conscious effort that they're the only ones in the game. They're still going to have to make better decisions lately. They're going to have to make some more concessions because we've got games like Reality. I think we got this thing from the Snow Runner, Mid Runner. Mid Runner and Snow Runner content. From those same creators creating a trucking sim, and we've got World of Trucks Australia. You know, we've got Trucking Australia. We got the Australian game out there. There are games out there that these games are gonna be. If somebody comes out with a better game design and better decision, they're gonna lose. And you gotta innovate. You gotta make sure that you should have been thinking about. You have the Eurotruck here. Once you get done, I think once you get all of Europe done, I think what they should really do is just start thinking about shifting and working on better upgrading the engines, making the game much more optimizable. They're bringing it to console, and it's going to get more people to be able to play these games. They make out a lot of these things for and they do it right because and it's just like they do it a little bit right for it. But I'm gonna tell you the worst culprit when it comes to games is the is Train Sim World and Train Simulator, the Train Simulator games. They're fantastic games, but I'm not gonna go sit there and spend $4,000 to have the entire game and its content. But at the same time, it takes a lot of time to build these trains and build these things and get the licenses and things for that. Whereas in American Truck, it's a little bit easier to build a game that uses real life trucks but doesn't have to use completely real life cities and everything. And they don't have to go like this. They don't have to go from every city to city. And it would take, probably if they did this in real life, it would take, and they built the cities in real life and built it like Flight Simulator, or allowing you to do that. It's really, that's where the game really starts kind of, a lot of toll booths here. So it's that thing, and then, you know, and it's also a good idea that not only spending on the cheaper things, but you also look at the Epstein files, and you have to realize that if you're going to continue to lie about things, you're going to inevitably, you're going to continue to really have problems when you start lying. You know, like when you talked about how this lady basically stole something from a kid that basically came over and stole this baseball from a kid. It's like you're really thinking, you really need to think about the issue of, if that happened to your kid, would you be outraged? Of course you would. But it's not worth it to get outraged over something like that. Just let it go, kind of thing. Not argue with the person and then karma bit this person and this kid got that thing. But it's just like, if you look at, you're lying, and the truth is always going to be there, because it doesn't matter if you lie to the American people about these Epstein files. Okay, God knows the truth. God knows absolutely the absolute truth about the Epstein files. God knows the absolute decision. So whether the Epstein files are fake or not, which to me that they seem that they're not fake, that Trump was part of this. And if you're gonna continue to double down, you're not gonna really be. You lie, and saying that, you know, raising grocery prices, you didn't raise grocery prices. Saying that you lied about not wanting to raise grocery prices but reduce grocery prices. You didn't reduce grocery prices, you increased grocery prices. You're increasing the chip issue. You're increasing the technology problem. And Intel had to get bailed out because of the problem that they faced with 13th and 14th gen Intel CPUs. The whole thing, the reason why I advocate do not buy Intel right now, because of the Intel 13th and 14th gen operating systems, like of these chipsets, sorry, these CPUs, these central processing units. I would stick with AMD. I would personally, right now, AMD has not had problems. They used to be one of those people that they had problems back in the day. They had so much more problems back in the day with CPUs than they do today. they seem to work on their graphics a little. They need to work on their graphics, but Nvidia's kind of gotten complacent lately, where they're starting to see problems within. If you guys didn't watch the latest Jay's video, Jay basically had this thing on the issue of Windows bricking your SSDs, and he had one on Nvidia basically talking about how there's been issues with Nvidia drivers. And to be honest, it's like the whole reason why I want that if I ever do get a computer or another laptop, because I eventually I probably will. I'm not going to do it now. I don't have the funds, of course. But when I do upgrade, I'm going to make sure that my computer is all kitted out with full AMD. And the full AMD suite. Because AMD is doing a lot better in terms of driver status stability. And to be honest, I'm going to be somebody that's not going to go out and buy Intel and AMD together. I'm not going to do that. If I'm going to do Intel, it would be Intel and Nvidia, or Intel and Intel, or AMD and Nvidia. Okay, I'm not going to go out and buy an Intel and then put an AMD graphics card into an Intel system. I'm not going to go put a AMD and go buy an Intel graphics card. I'm not going to cross talk with those. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather do AMD and AMD. The great combo is that. Because I am this person that does not want to go out and buy a computer that has some wonkiness or problems with drivers and things. It's like I would rather if a company is going to use AI to create and to manufacture these things, I would want them to have competent people who know how to, competent engineers, people who have there that may start using a little bit of that AI, but I am like, I don't want to go and use something that when a driver update, drivers aren't supposed, most of the time, drivers are supposed to increase stability. And they're not increasing the stability. And that's a problem. And then when you talk about the whole thing of problems, those things are like, I didn't want to, like, I'm kind of glad I'm not on an Intel I'm not on Intel. Only reason why I didn't go Intel is just because of the reality is AMD is actually did a lot better at the time. I was doing a lot better at gaming performance and gaming stuff, and I'm like, I game a lot, so I'm going to go AMD. Now I've kind of like, I don't recommend people getting Intel anymore. I don't recommend it because AMD is actually doing better than Intel at the moment for just general things. Intel had to be bailed out by the government. Now has to have 10% of their stock. It's like, it's not great. Like, I would basically say, if you have, like, if I was president, I would basically say, no, you want to get bailed out, you have to, like, I would basically say, Intel, you need to figure this out now. I am going to sell all 10% of my shares to somebody else. I'll give you I'll basically sell you the 10% shares to your company if you want to over time, Um, but I would basically say, you know, Intel needs to really think they needed to bail out, but it's like they don't like, and that issue. But then you also look at the issue of Hyundai and the issue of the Trump administration coming in and sweeping up 500 people from Hyundai, because that also happened over the weekend. Um, oh, I gotta sit over there. It's okay. It works out. But it's like you need to stop really thinking about um you need to start thinking about the thing that if you want people here in America to start making products here in America and Americans doing it, you gotta have them be trained. And you gotta have them be trained on these things. But you get rid of the 500 people that are coming here to help train American people, and you get rid of them, and they had all legal status and legal everything. You're not really helping the situation. You're harming the situation. You're actually like Americans don't know how to make a Hyundai car. A Hyundai car. Americans are going to learn how to make Fords and make things that are American made. But a Hyundai that they want to invest, say, oh, we're going to invest in America. You have to also invest in bringing better. You have to invest in the people. You have to invest in those 500 people coming in to better create that economy and make it better. But if you're going to get rid of them, it's like you're in no way, shape, or form any better than the issues at hand. And no way in a hand doing the things that are right, because you decide that you're sitting here at a loss, or you're sitting here thinking that Trump's going to do the right thing, and he's not. He has not done the right thing. He has not done anything to better America. He has done things to harm America and harm the society and harm about all about these things. And hold on, guys, I want to check a thing. And it shows. And I'm not gonna say that. Look, I'm not gonna say that a blue state's gonna automatically go to a red state. I'm not gonna say that a red state's gonna automatically become a blue state just because of things like that. But when you start seeing the patterns and you start looking at I always want to stop here at these things. So it's one of those things that it's really tough to make that decision, and really think about the things that, yes, there are. I do boycott a very very little these days, but I do boycott some of those things where it's necessary, and it's necessary places that I'm not gonna eat at, just like eat at restaurants. Like buying groceries, like I'm not gonna stop that when something is cheaper and something is cheaper. I'm gonna always inevitably go for the cheaper thing to be able to support myself and be able to do things like that. You know, if I was somebody that was buying things like that every day, or finding better ways to make better decisions, and to make better life, uh, to make myself that way, it's like I'm not gonna go out there and buy $30 worth of pasta when I go out and buy $30 worth of pasta that's only like 4 boxes. I would rather go and find the cheaper pasta. Okay, sometimes I'll make some cheaper concessions to do it, but I will still try to find ways to make myself healthier in some of these regards. The healthier thing is that you don't have to eat, like, you always should be eating a vegetable, always eating something healthier, always having vegetables, always having fruits and vegetables with your meal, rather than having um uh rather than having that cheese, or eating grapes, eating things that are better for you than not eating at all. And it's always better to eat healthier and eat smart. Um, sometimes yes, the only thing that I do eat that's not quite as healthy that's there is I not eat, but I drink pop. But that's the only thing I drink that out of my day that I drink that's unhealthy and thing. But that's about it. Like, for the only thing that, and it's like I don't go out and drink coffee because coffee's not good for you. It's like coffee may be good for you, but it's not. If you, like, yes, I drink pop every day, but I don't drink pop just to drink it for the caffeine. Okay, it's like look, if I did that, then I would have so totally just grabbed any. I would be so much. Then I would be so much gathering um the ability to to try to make things a lot better and make things. It's like one of the things that I always look at, you know how I make this truck. It's a conscious decision. It's like, yes, I made this truck because I like Adidas. Okay, but I'm also going to tell you, I am not going to be somebody. But I'm also going to be somebody that, like, Adidas may not support us anymore. Adidas may not support the LGBTQ community, but that doesn't mean that, it's like SCS doesn't really support the LGBTQ community. Doesn't really spend their time supporting us. But that doesn't mean that they don't. Doesn't mean that they don't. It doesn't mean that they don't. Not either, because having somebody out there forcing you to forcing the rainbow things down people's, just forcing the rainbow on people, um Yeah, we've got a vehicle up here that. And there's a lot of things out there that, you know, you can't like go out and expect these things to have um you can't go out there and expect every company to do so. But companies that don't go out and directly do so doesn't mean that they don't support us. Doesn't mean that then you just have to think about what do they have for policies, what do they have things inside of what of their company. You know, just because Sony doesn't support LGBTQ community or whatnot, if they don't, which Sony does, but they don't actively go out there and push it. They don't actively push that out. Then there might be occasionally, like, I don't mind a game coming out, you know, that comes from these companies that come out with LGBTQ included. Okay, but they don't have to do that every stinking time. They don't need to be pushing it to basically making sure that every game has it. No. If they want to tell a story and they want to use an LGBTQ character, go for it. I've done it a few times. Where I am somebody that, you know, I have made a game, one of my games, I have made the Crystallis Planet. Made a game that did not involve LGBTQ. Didn't expressively put that person out as LGBTQ. I have made a game that expressively tells that this character is trans, but then I don't go and talk about it any further than just mentioning it. And I don't go out there and push it and shove it to do it. And I'm going to tell you that you don't need to go out there and make it your whole life's thing to force everything to be in there. No. But at the same time, it's like if a company is actively... However, there are some things that I will take into consideration when I look at a company is, are they actively going out of their way to... Oh, ho, 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 ho. So, that's a reserve. I saw a truck go through here. Okay. And there's always that, you know, but I don't mind, like if they are putting out that they are willing to, like Netflix does this wonderfully. Netflix is out there willing to put LGBTQ content on their platform. They're willing to do that, but they're also willing to not also put all that content on there either. And that's some of those things where, you know, I always look at these things where it doesn't bother me if the only people that bother me when it comes to people is if I find out through means, I am not going to go out there and support you. I'm not gonna go out there and support you if you are like I won't watch J.K. Rowling's stuff anymore. I won't go and watch any of her content. I won't go and support any of her content. I don't care who was in the movie previously. I won't go out and play those games anymore. I am one of those people that it's very rare that I will boycott anything. Okay? I'm not somebody that's going to boycott Harry Potter to boycott Harry Potter just because. I'm boycotting because I don't like what J.K. Rowling's doing. I don't like what is going on with that. I boycott these things where they're actively, like Chick-fil-A. I don't eat at Chick-fil-A. I won't eat at Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A is, they're ending up supporting Trump. They're like businesses that end up supporting Trump that really go out of their way to support them. With a few exceptions, like I will still be on YouTube because YouTube's a great platform. YouTube's an amazing platform. That doesn't mean please tell me. Okay. So that means we will have gas up here, but it's also that same thing where I don't actively look for where I don't actively go and look for I don't actively go out there and actively look for it. It's like, look, I could stop drinking Pepsi and Mountain Dew and I would because they end up supporting. It's like, no, I'm not gonna stop every stinking thing. You can't. It's hard to do something. But when I have something out there that I know that is supporting, then I kind of make that decision that I'm gonna buy that product more than I'm going to spend my money buying elsewhere. It's like right now. It's one of those things where I'm not gonna go out and buy Dolls Kill stuff right now anymore because they stopped having Pride merch. That doesn't mean and they stopped doing that because they're only there to make money. And stuff, and that's where I don't go out and buy things where if like clothing, it's like if I have to, like I'm not gonna go personally. I wouldn't go out and buy Dolls Kill anyway because they're I don't need gas. I just need to rest. So it's 10 hours, 59 minutes. For my next rest. We have 3 hours to get this. We have 3 hours left on this trip time. We got plenty of time to get there, so this will be thanks Momo. I don't care or I don't know. Thanks for joining the live stream. But it's one of those things that, it's hard to not. But if you can speak your mind and speak up and continue to speak up about these things, these companies will inevitably figure out a way to fix themselves. Fix the problem. Some of these companies that supported us that are pulling out now only because of Donald Trump. they're only trying to protect themselves from being taken out, and and companies that do that just to say that, just to cover their butt because of Trump, to cover their thing, it's not a good look on you. You know, if this indication with this Medicaid and Medicare thing that they're not going to cover it for those things, then, you know, for me, it's like, you're not going to cover it for those people, then we shouldn't be covering then we shouldn't be covering your insurance. We shouldn't be covering your health insurance, because if you are, because you can't seem to that basically I would require that all, unless you're dedicated military, you have to have your own health insurance. Federal employees have to receive their they have to get health insurance from their own. They have to find it on their own. If you cannot support a Medicare recipient or a Medicaid recipient, we shouldn't be supporting your health insurance just because the American people pay for it. And that's the truth. Okay? Nobody should be paying for health insurance. Nobody should be paying shouldn't be really forcing these people these people should not be forcing, if you want to stop forcing. Okay, actually I do need to be over here. Okay, I was right to stay where I put. I think I just need to go over anyway. It's one of those things where you don't want to be out there and putting out there saying, oh, I'm not going to support people not being able to get health care because it harms them. So at any point, just because one drug, just because of Medicare or Medicaid, they're basically trying to pull a fast one to make these things. And it's like, I said, I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to call it out every day, and I'm going to continue to call it out. And I'm going to make sure that I run through it, and I said I'd take through these bills. I would run through an AI, run through it, let it run through, and then make sure that when I run through this, that I would make sure, okay, I want to know everything that's in, the good and the bad and the ugly in this bill. I would go out and I would give it the text, I would give it the file or the text and run it through an AI just to go make sure that if there's anything good, the bad, and the ugly on this. And I want to know, does this affect certain groups of people? And if this affects trans people, if this bill affects unharmful to the trans community, I am not going to go out there and support this bill. I'm going to go out there and take this bill and remove it. Take this bill and not support this initiative. And doesn't matter. It's like you're gonna take and harm one community to help the rest of the people because you're selfish and ignorant and you haven't seen through it with this bill. Your bill is not inherently better than anything. You're not out there to support the community. You're not out there to support the people, advocating for them to make their decision. You're wanting to remove people's decision because a trans person is First off, there is nothing says in the Bible. I have looked this up. It does not mention anywhere in the Bible. It talks about um um same-sex and homosexuality and things, but it does not talk anywhere about the transgenders. It does not talk anywhere about abortions in the Bible. Okay, it does not mention those things. Now, of course, I may be wrong about it, and I might have to do double take and double listen and find out. But you can let me know, because I'm personally, and you can't just go and say, oh, Romans, and you can't say Romans and you can't say the other one that's in the Bible, because those two things, I've already read those. Those do mention that, but you gotta realize that just because those things mention it, you gotta also realize that then you're saying, by your same logic, mentioning that Ezekiel 47:12 says, oh well, no, it's only for God's medicine's only this, and only represents this, when in reality you don't know what God's medicine is, because you're not God. You know, God's medicine technology changes. Look, in the time of before Christ, medicine was really different. Medicine didn't really consist of the things that we have. You know, medicine was a lot harder to probably get back then compared to today, because of what? Because not being able to travel, it may take several days, weeks to get medicine to people, compared to today, even months to get medicine to people, that need it, that need to be able to survive. And just because the Black Plague and these other things happen, these diseases happen, they happen and happen. They're going to consistently happen because we let it happen. And we are going to let it happen by getting rid of vaccines. And getting rid of vaccine mandates, not forcing kids to get vaccinated. It's like, look, I'm going to tell you then, you're no way in shape in any hell listening to God, because you're basically putting and saying that God said you can't do. My God basically says you can't get vaccinated because it's wrong and it's harming our people. Well, if it's harming our people, then find me the evidence find me the evidence in the Bible that says of vaccinations. Find me where it says in the Bible that it talks about taking pills and taking things. It does not mention it anywhere. I have looked tirelessly through the Bible. I have looked through it, and of course I have an app that actually allows for me to look things up and make better conscious decisions about it. And I'm going to tell you, it's not anywhere that I can search. And I looked in medicine, I looked at the word medicine, I looked at the word vaccines, and in the Bible it does not mention it anywhere in scriptures. However, it does mention medicine once, and only once in the Bible. And only once, and it was describing Jerusalem. Describing what Jerusalem would look like. Okay? Now, however, there are going to be... I don't need to do that. However, there are going to be things that are in the Bible that may have slightly changed over the years, because some things, the knowledge, and the things that we know now are different than what we knew then. It doesn't mean that some of the things that we are taught don't change. Okay, God's message doesn't change. God's message doesn't change to fit society. We as a society have to fit to be with God. But in order for us to do that, we have to be really actively listening and actually doing it. And we wouldn't be in this issue with crime, We wouldn't be having these issues with grocery prices being so low and or being so high, and grocery prices being and these products being how so terribly big and ridden. We wouldn't have Trump in office if we listened to God. We wouldn't have problems within our country if we listened and we pay attention. And that's what we need to really be thinking about that is that we need to stop thinking about is this going to be better. Thanks, Billy, for joining. We need to stop thinking of that mindset and do that. But at the same time, it's like we wouldn't also have the issues with the Republicans being hell bent on a lot of the things that they are, and doubling down on the issue of the Epstein files, doubling down on lying, continuing to lie about certain things, and continuing to support and continuing to support um the agenda that Trump wants. And Project 2025 is not what God would want. There's a lot of things in there that God does not want to see going on. A white Christian nationalism, like, yes, we can be Christians, we can do that. But we want to make sure that if we are a Christian, we are a Christian of whites, blacks, Asians. We are Christians with Native Americans and Christians with whatever color skin we are. And that's what we should be focused on. And be focused on a lot of the things of that nature instead of um 5 forcing people to change. You can't like force somebody to follow. Okay, no, like, there are going to be people that you want to force people to believe and follow the 10 Commandments. You're forcing it. Okay, you're forcing that mentality that if you go to school and the 10 Commandments are there, it's not going to stop a child. Okay, it's not going to stop a child from gathering a 13-year-old from gathering guns. It's not going to stop and it's not going to stop the 13-year-old from stealing. It's not going to stop a uh an adult. It's not going to stop these things from happening. It's not going to stop because these things are just there as reading, and it's like, well, and it's like we already have those things. We already teach the 10 Commandments. We just don't teach it in the way that the 10 Commandments are forefront. We shouldn't be teaching it we should be learning and utilizing that and understanding those things, but not forcing the 10 Commandments on people to forcefully to learn these things, to forcefully do it. People want to have to learn. People want to have to do things. We shouldn't be forcing people to go and do the dishes because they want because they have to be done, of course. But forcing them and consistently forcing them might not always be the best thing to force something. We have to kind of sometimes let them learn and let them make those mistakes so that they can learn from those mistakes and learn why. When you look at the major things, that if they are major things, yes, we have to learn. We have to grow and understand a lot of this. And all of this has to stem, like, you look at the Before I quite get off here, guys, um, you have to really look at what goes on in the space of time. If you're gonna double down on a lie that you consistently see, but there's always gonna be things in life that there's always gonna be three things in life of a decision that you make, or in the decision that we choose to do a lot of things. First, um, the first thing that you need to realize is that all um all things have a consequence. There's always a good and a bad consequence to everything. Um, Most of the time, sometimes the bad will outweigh the good in a lot of times, and lying is one of those things that if you look out at, there's a lie there for this person, but then there's also a lie for um but then there's a lie out there for the left leaning, or not a lie, but if there for a lie that the left perpetrate. For example, if the left go out and say, oh well, these Epstein files shouldn't be released, we don't want them released, we don't want them at all, that's not really what's there. Is like, if you say that, but then you go and look at uh the Republican Party, and they say the Democratic Party wants to release these files, and wants these files released, but they didn't do it previously is because they didn't feel like they needed to. Then that's a little bit there, but there's always three things that go on with a thing. There's always the truth, okay? There's always, like, you always look at the Republican truth and the Democratic truth, and then the absolute truth. The absolute truth, a lot of the time, it is always still going to be there. The truth for the Democrats, or the truth that the Republicans, like, there's lies that Democrats put out there that aren't truth, but and then there are also the same things that Republicans do. It's everybody lies at some point. Everybody says made a lie. I have. Of course, I have doubled down on some of those lies and got in trouble for it. You know? That's the one thing that I will always say is look at the consequences, and if you think that the bad doesn't outweigh the good, and you're going to do that good, remember, if you say I'm not going to get vaccinated because my religion tells me not to get vaccinated, my religion tells me this, but then these vaccines are out there now, but then there are people out there that say my religion says, oh, vaccines are good, vaccines are safe, we're going to force it. But then you look at it and it's like, okay, let's start getting rid of, if you start getting rid of for autism, I'm going to get off here, guys. The last thing I'm going to say about this is, if you look at autism, or you look at things, just because you get rid of these drugs or get rid of things on autism, and you say you get rid of it, well, look at autism. Autism is not going to go away. ADHD is not going to go away. Bipolar, schizophrenia, all of the diabetes, and all of these things that you want to get rid of because this is harming your society. Antidepressants, like, a lot of times, like, there are going to be that when you get rid of it, you're going to have a more worse off society than somebody not than looking at vaccines and making sure vaccines are safe, and actually getting people to get vaccinated. Thanks, PW, for joining. That you need to make sure that you get vaccinated. Make sure that you're always getting those things, because they like in this appropriations, they will not supply getting the COVID vaccine because they think the mRNA vaccines are horrible. And it's like, okay, then if the mRNA vaccines are horrible, then why don't you come up with a vaccine that's better than the mRNA? You can't, because the mRNA was done rapidly, was done quicker to stave off that. Technology advances. God had a hand in creating these vaccines. And if you don't think that's the case, then we would be here today. And today is September 9th, 2025. Do you think that 5 years from now, do you think we would still have the vast majority of, do you think that 5 years from now, trying to get a normal vaccine like the flu, or a vaccine like that, trying to get it done, it would take us years if we hadn't done this mRNA stuff, and we wouldn't be here today. We'd probably be there'd probably be many. There'd probably double the amount of people who have died in the United States if the vaccines were not warp speed, not when Operation Warp Speed happened. We could have gotten a lot further and a lot faster into getting COVID vaccines to people, and getting the things when we have everybody working on it, everybody doing things. But if we just let it go and not worried about the COVID, we would still be at the issue of today. More people would have died if we had decided to use a different method to make those vaccines. We wouldn't be here today doing that. Thanks, David, for joining. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get off. I need to go make supper. I know I should have been off at 5:30, but I ended up taking 2 trips today, a little bit longer than I needed to. But next time we will take another trip tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, the 10th. Is when we will do this again. We might do it again tonight. On all of this. But I will tell you, or anything, that guess what? Whatever comes out of things, we just have to learn to face it and face these things, because nothing's gonna change by just one person. We cannot change. One person cannot change the world overnight. One idea is not going to be able to fix it overnight. We have to do it with multiple people and multiple things have to be done to do it. And it's like we have to be willing to stand up and change, and willing to stand up and put our voices out there against Trump. And making sure that when we put our voice and stand up. Look, I am somebody that was a registered Republican. Keyword was. The whole thing is a lot of my views. I kind of starting to realize myself that some of those ideals that I've had relate to a lot of what Democrats want most of the time, not always. And some of those things that kind of I kind of line more with the left than I do with the right. On a lot of things, but there's like only a handful, like a couple of things, like the climate change and the guns issue. I'm kind of somebody that kind of leans more towards the right on this issue, but not to the extent of the current issue on those things. But anyways, we'll get into some more political content tomorrow, some more talking head stuff tomorrow. Guys, if you want to know the Middle East thing, you guys can go back to this video early on, where I talked about that Qatar got hit by Israel. That's a really sad thing to see. And these Epstein files, they're starting to come out more and more, and they're basically, the right's basically saying, oh, this is all a hoax, this is all a thing, and all this. And they're saying, oh, this file that they released, that's not a Trump thing. They're basically saying, oh, that's just forged documents, these are all lies. They're basically doubling down on lies, and doubling down on these things that aren't telling the truth. Because if you look at it, a truth. Remember, like the Epstein files, like the right says this way, the left says it this way. But remember, just because the left says that this is their truth and the right has their truth, the absolute truth is in the middle. The absolute truth is there. They're gonna lie and say that, oh no, it's only this is all a hoax, but the left is saying it's not. That you got to think that the absolute truth's there somewhere in all of this, and we'll know eventually. All of these people that have went along with lying about this, and all these people that believed in this lie and continue, we'll know the truth eventually. And that. But anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon here on YouTube. So make sure you guys hit that follow, hit that subscribe. Tomorrow afternoon will be 3 to 4 o'clock. Most of the time I've been getting on at 4 lately, but I've at least I make sure I'm trying to get on early enough. And also, if you guys are here on TikTok, make sure you guys are followed. Following and subscribing is free on YouTube and Trovo. Not on Trovo though, for subscribing. So subscribing, you do get perks by watching past live streams and doing those things that will get you there. And you guys can also not only hit that, you guys can also check out other streams and other things as well. I know I didn't check my Trovo side. I'll check to see if there's if I missed any messages, because, you know, okay, no missed messages today. And remember, guys, I do still have the Christian Satori thing going on my I do have the Christian Satori thing going on over there on the right there, but I'm just gonna tell you guys, I'm gonna see you guys later. Remember, if you subscribe on YouTube, make sure you hit that bell notification with the all, because you might not get notified when I do go live for it. So and hit that like if you did enjoy. Remember, it's greatly